Hello friends, today we are going to talk about one of the least understood topics. But before we get into the topic, let's start with an interesting incident. We keep forgetting things, right? But will you believe if I say that someone is going to lose $220 million because he forgot something? Yes, Stefan Thomas, a programmer based out of San Francisco, is at the verge of losing $220 million because he forgot something. What did he forget? He forgot the password of his hard drive where he had stored the private keys to the digital wallet that holds 7,002 bitcoins. In 2011, Stephen Thomas created a video called What is Bitcoin? And for that he gets rewarded with 7,002 bitcoins. He stores all those bitcoins in a digital wallet and he stores that in a password protected hard drive. He writes the password in a piece of paper and he misplaces the paper, and from then on he is not able to remember the password. To unlock this hard drive, he has total 10 guesses, of which he has already exhausted 8 and only 2 are left. Even in many of his interviews, Stefan had said that he is not hoping to remember his password and he doesn't have any hope of recovering those bitcoins. Now, are 7,000 bitcoins valued at $220 million? Really? Yes, one bitcoin is valued at $32,300. So much, right? Now let's look at how Bitcoin valuation happened. Let's look at its inception. During the early days of Bitcoin mining, the Bitcoin miners started negotiating among themselves in their forums on how to value Bitcoin. How do you value anything? Either that thing needs to have a purchasing power, it needs to be able to purchase something, or it needs to be pegged against a currency, right? So in 22 May 2010, the first purchase was made, and that's how Bitcoin's first value was established. What is it? 2 pizzas worth $25 were bought with 10,000 Bitcoins. And from then on, the story of Bitcoin's valuation started. In Feb 2011, one Bitcoin was valued at $1. In 2012, Bitcoin was valued at $5, and in 2015 it reached $216. From then on till 2018, Bitcoin reached a peak of $14,000. After 2018, it saw volatility. It went down to $3,000 and it went up to $10,000. After the COVID pandemic, it is continuously rising and it has reached a point of $32,000. Now, if we want to understand Bitcoin, we need to understand what is money. Let's say there are two people, person A and person B, and person A has $1,000 and person B has $0. Person A wants to give $100 to person B. There are two modes of giving. Either person A can give one $100 bill to person B, or he can transfer the money digitally, right? If it's paper currency, it's very simple. He will have $900 bills and he will have $100 bill. In case of digital money, when a wire transfer is made, how is it accounted for? These are accounted in the ledger of banks, which is monitored by the central banks, a Federal Reserve in case of the United States. So money is nothing but a piece of transaction data that is maintained in the ledgers of the bank's server, right? You need to understand this concept till the end, then only the concept of Bitcoin will be very, very clear to you. Now, let's say the banks and the central bank do not exist. There is no centralized authority who has the power to maintain these ledgers, right? The ledgers will be unsecure. Someone who's tech savvy can just multiply this data. Money is just a data, right? They can just copy paste this data and they can create thousands and millions and billions of dollars, right? Hence, the centralized systems who can secure these ledgers are very important. Now, because of this centralization, there are a few problems. So what are those problems? In all our discussions, you need to keep remembering that money is just a transaction data in a bank's ledger. When the power is centralized, when the power of money is centralized with the Federal Reserve or any central bank in any country, they can print money at will, which will lead to inflation. Another example, because the central banks hold so much power, they can devalue your currencies at any point in time. Remember the 2016 demonetization that happened in India that devalued 500 and 1000 rupee notes. Another problem is if someone is super tech savvy and they can access the banks and the central bank server, they can still create a fraud transaction. To solve all these problems, Bitcoin came through. So what is a Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. It's a digital cryptocurrency that is created using blockchain technology. after the 2008 global financial crisis, someone called Satoshi Nakamoto published a paper called Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System, where they claimed to solve this double spending problem of creating money or copying money, and at the same time solving the problem of centralization. Now let's get back to our example to understand what is a Bitcoin. Now, in addition to person A and B, we have person C and person D, and they go to a island where there is no central banks or there are no banks, but they have to make some transactions. What do? A has to give money to B, and B has to give to C, and B has to give to D, and D has to give to A. For that, they invented one system. A said that if I have to pay $100 to B, I will write that I pay $100 to B in a paper. I will sign it, and B will also sign it, and both of them will keep a copy. But here is a problem. If A adds one more zero to that piece of document, he can easily claim that he had paid $1,000 to person B, but B will have only $100 in his document. This will create a dispute. To solve this problem, what A, B, C, D and all together got together decided is that they will maintain all the transactions with everyone, and they will maintain digitally. If a transaction between A and B is made $100, this transaction will be recorded in person A, person B, person C and person D's systems. Similarly, when a transaction is made by D to A, the transaction will be recorded in all the systems. And hence, if someone wants to create a fraud, let's say A wants to add one more zero to make it $1,000, the transaction data in the systems of B, C and D will not align with what A has, and this transaction will not be validated, and hence any fraud will not be possible. Now, as you can see, Bitcoin is a transparent ledger that anyone can verify, and it is maintained across all the participants. Just imagine the same system with a network with thousands of computers, right? If all the transactions across all the participants are maintained with everyone, it is very, very difficult to create a fraud, right? Let's say if someone wants to create a fraud by, multiplying money, what they need to do is they will have to hack more than 50% of the systems to do that. And they'll have to change the records or the transaction data in all the system, which is highly impossible. As on May 2020, there is a data point that says that there were around 47,000 nodes in the Bitcoin system. So if someone wants to hack and make a fraud transaction, they will have to hack more than 50%. That is 23,501 systems to create this fraud transaction, which is highly impossible. And hence we can clearly say that Bitcoin system is super secure. What do we mean when we say we own a Bitcoin? Let's understand this with an example. What do we mean when we say we own $100? It means that either we own a $100 bill which is issued by the Federal Reserve, or we have a right to access a specific address in the bank's ledger which is identified by your account number, and it will say person A has $100 in the account number, say 12356, and that person has the right to transfer it to someone else. And hence when we say we own money, it is nothing but a ownership of a specific address in a bank server, and which says that how much of money we have. The same concept with Bitcoin. What do we mean when we say we own a Bitcoin? It means that we have the right to access a specific address in the ledger of Bitcoin system which is existing with all the participants. Here in the normal fiat currency, it is the specific address in a bank's ledger, whereas here it is the specific address in the ledger of Bitcoin system which is available with every participant, and it is identified by two keys. One is a public key which is very similar to your bank account number, and a private key which is very similar to your password. Bitcoin is completely anonymous, right? We say that it is transparent, but what do we mean by anonymous? All the transactions are transparent and it is recorded with all the participants, but who has transferred money to whom, that is completely anonymous. As you can see in the screenshot, the address of the sender and the receiver is completely encrypted and nobody can see it. So it is very transparent. At the same time, it is anonymous. How is Bitcoin created? For that, we need to understand how money is created. Money is created just by the decision of the government. If the government orders the Federal Reserve to print or create money, it issues bonds, and through banks it creates money. There is no limitation to creation of money, and that is why inflation happens. Whereas in case of Bitcoin, if you want to create a Bitcoin, you need to solve a very complex computational puzzle in the open source software of Bitcoin. And if you solve that puzzle, there will be a block that will be created, and with the creation of every block, you would be rewarded with Bitcoins. This is called Bitcoin mining. Will Bitcoin solve inflation? Let's understand this. As we earlier saw, there is no limit to the creation of money, which is otherwise called fiat currency, right? Which will lead to inflation. Whereas in case of Bitcoin, Bitcoin has only limited supply. There are only 21 million Bitcoins that can be mined as per the Bitcoin algorithm. How is this controlled? So it is controlled based on the Bitcoin's algorithm of decreasing rewards. So as you keep solving this computational puzzles for creation of every block, or for creation or every 4 years, or after the creation of every 2010 blocks, the reward will reduce. For instance, in 2009, if you create one block, you would be rewarded with 50 Bitcoins, and after every 4 years, it keeps reducing. As on 2020, if you create one block of Bitcoin, the reward is only 6.25 Bitcoins. Because of this reducing reward system, it would reach a point where the reward is negligible and people would stop mining Bitcoins, and only 21 million Bitcoins will be mined. So far, 18.5 million Bitcoins have been mined, and there are only 2.5 million Bitcoins that are yet to be mined. Hence, because of this limited supply, there will not be a possibility of inflation with Bitcoins. So why Bitcoin has so much of craze around it? Let's think about history, right? Who wrote history? The historians or the victors. Victors wrote history. We don't even know whether it is true or not. Whatever is written by those individuals had the authority over history, and they told us what is really history. But in the internet era, it is not possible. Someone 100 years down the line, if they want to know what really happened, there is no one who can fudge the system. Everybody can write in the internet. Wikipedia has given access to everyone to read and write and edit it, right? And we also know who wrote or who has edited it. Bitcoin was also very, very similar. Like history, like one person, the victors controlled history. The central banks and the banks are controlling the money. Whereas in Bitcoin, it is available with everyone. The control is with everyone, and hence Bitcoin is called the Internet of Money. Right? Hope you understood the concept of Bitcoin. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.